Mark East was born in St. Paul, but left when he was 21 and spent 20 years in Portland, Oregon. He was a hall director and housing manager at Portland State University and spends his time writing short stories, poems, painting pictures, and playing tournament chess online with people all over the world. Please welcome Mark.
Yeah, hello. I thought I'd read my short story that's in the almanac here, and a couple of autumn poems, and a poem about my granddaughter who sits right over there. You want to take a bow? Anyway, one day after cancer surgery, I looked in the mirror at a yellow face of wrinkles, and I looked as if I was dying. I decided to leave Oregon, where I had lived for 20 years, and return to Minnesota to escape death and to be with my family in case I didn't. Before I left the hospital, the nurses filled my trunk with chemo pills in the event the surgeon hadn't gotten all the cancer. Then I drove straight through, all the time wondering how my family would take the news I hadn't told them yet. I felt anxious about how I would tell them and whether I could prevent myself from crying when I did. After a few days driving, I found myself at Como Lake. I came to a spot I recognized. Broken trees leaned down in the water, which was shallow with a few reeds sticking up here and there. There was a spot my friend Steve and I had caught turtles. We had skipped school to go walking around the lake. We snuck around the trees and felt a wonderful rush when we saw a line of painted turtles perched along a tree branch sunning themselves. We crawled on our hands and feet as close as we could to the lake and made a mad dash into the water. The turtles turned and dropped in. We followed them, searching with our hands through the muck until we felt their slippery shells and then pulled them up. Soaking wet, we ran out of the lake with the turtles, laughing like only children can. But then, as we lined up the turtles, a police car came around the corner. I put my sweater over them, but it didn't help because as we were trying to explain our absence from school, the sweater went crawling away. As I drove further around the lake, I saw a spot that reminded me of a girl I made out with in middle school. At this spot, two maps carved on wooden signs pointed the way to a stairway that headed down towards the water. A wall of huge blue and white rocks rose up, and beyond it was a little grassy spot where we would lie down. She was thin and taller than I was, but she had huge teeth, and when she smiled, they sparkled. We would take a few steps and lie down on the grass and kiss. My heart would pump so hard, I was sure she would hear it. I can still taste her wet lips and the peppermint gum she chewed. Once I lay on top of her and pressed my jeans against hers. It was the first time I almost made love. I smelled the scent of sweet sweat and wet earth as I laid my head against her damp hair. I breathed in deeply the scent of freshly cut grass. The memory stops there, but what a vivid one. A few weeks later, after settling in and getting together with my family, I went to see a doctor. They couldn't find any trace of cancer. I had stopped taking the pills because it made me sick, so the surgeon must have gotten rid of it, or maybe it was due to my change in spirit since coming back to Minnesota. After I came out of the building, I lay on my back, smelled the freshly cut grass, thought of my sweater crawling across the lawn at Como Lake, and laughed like a child. Okay, this is called There's the Light from My Granddaughter. There's the light from a painting by Cezanne or Van Gogh, so perfectly arranged, it moves my blood to flow in my heart and sends little bubbles up my spine and stimulates my mind to create the things that I create. There's the light from the moon that spreads its holy halos from its edge. There's the light from her smile that greets me each time she enters the room. There's the light of morning that moves on her face like the first light when the sun was born. There's the light from her laugh that makes me a child again. After she cries and stops, as if she was saying, "Fooled you again." There's the light vanilla scent that emanates from her cheeks against mine as we wrestle for her toys. There's the heat from her heart to the heat of her hands as she hugs my neck. There's the red light from the cat's eyes as she calls to me in the night. There's the holy light of belief that relieves me as I lay down for my last sleep. And she will be the light of my eyes here on earth. When I follow the light through the tunnel to a more heavenly place where we will meet again and fly together with all my relatives and friends on wings of wind to a brighter light dimension of space and time. And the next one is the air of autumn. In this lonely time of the year, where that ever-increasing slant of the sun leaves the air a mossy and ancient, solemn scent of memory, the trees face us with their snarling bark, stand with listless acceptance, and to nowhere lurch their branches bare of past green joys, now broken off and blown somewhere away, leaving brown, dead leaves behind to cover the memories of summer, where once the trees twirled their skirts of green and sprinkled the fresh air with that tangy fragrance of blossoms. And I guess one last one here. As she walked into the living room, everyone froze as she urinated on the carpet. She had a black gleam in her eyes, and you could see tiny bats flapping their wings in the center of her pupils. She spoke in a low, loud voice, not her own, but from some bowels of hell. "Woe to you who gather here today and bear the wickedness that comes out of my mouth." Outside, the blows of the rain shoot up the roof, and the peals of thunder groan between the lightning cutting amid the mountainous cloud formations. And here, this beastly witch, flapping her black cape at us with the sounds of a low whipping, as she turns and walks out of the house and walks away, this little girl going trick-or-treating.